Tonight's special edition brought viewers into the eye of a media storm, pitting two of America's most formidable voices against one another in a contest for credibility. On one side stood Karoline Leavitt, the 27-year-old former White House press secretary, lauded for her fierce defense of President Trump and her reputation as a MAGA warrior. Opposite her was Rachel Maddow, the 52-year-old host of the MSNBC evening show, renowned for her progressive stance and pointed critiques of the Trump administration. What began as a high-stakes debate escalated into a historic confrontation, culminating in a revelation that may redefine the public's trust in mainstream media. Rachel Maddow opened with a searing indictment of Tesla and its CEO, Elon Musk. She cited financial disclosures showing a 71% plunge in quarterly profits, down from $1.4 billion to $400 million, and reported that Cybertruck sales had fallen from 20,000 to 10,000 units, while Tesla's stock shed 30% of its value over 6 months. Maddow argued that Musk's political entanglements, including his promotion of Dogecoin, had diverted his attention from the automaker's core business, undermining investor confidence and customer loyalty. Karoline Leavitt, clipboard in hand, countered with a study of global market share. Tesla currently holds 25% of the worldwide electric vehicle market, double that of its nearest competitor. Last year's $5 billion R&D investment outpaced every other automaker. While Cybertruck sales dipped, the model still claims 10% of the premium EV segment, surpassing Rivian's 5%. Industry-wide, General Motors and Ford reported profit declines of 20% and 15% respectively, underscoring systemic challenges. Leavitt further noted that Dogecoin integration saved Tesla $2 billion in corporate taxes, funding further expansion, and that the company delivered 1.2 million vehicles last year, a 10% increase. Finally, she contrasted the S&P 500 auto sector loss of 18% with Tesla's $700 billion market capitalization and highlighted shareholders' approval of Musk's $56 billion compensation as evidence of continued investor faith. Turning to federal budgeting, Maddow accused the Trump administration of enacting DOGE, a set of austerity measures she said had eliminated 10,000 federal positions, slashed $500 million from medical research, and threatened a $1 billion cut to Social Security, driving unemployment up by 0.5%. Her citations included reports from The Washington Post, NIH, and the Social Security Administration. Leavitt responded that DOGE actually saved taxpayers $10 billion by eliminating $700 million in redundant spending. Of the 10,000 affected employees, 80% were reassigned to other federal roles. She emphasized that medical research remains funded at $40 billion annually and no benefits were cut from Social Security. Administrative overhead was reduced by only 0.2%. Yet 5 key agencies saw efficiency gains of 15%. Moreover, Leavitt noted that national unemployment stands at a record low 3.8%, directly contradicting Maddow's assertion of a rising jobless rate. Rachel Maddow next framed widespread demonstrations as genuine expressions of popular discontent. She claimed 50,000 Americans gathered in 20 states over the last quarter, 5,000 alone in Minnesota, with a Pew Research poll showing 70% of the populace worried about Trump's policies. Leavitt dismantled this narrative by revealing that 60% of those protests were bankrolled by progressive organizations, backed by $2 million in federal election contributions. Local police records indicate turnout figures between 300 and 500 per event, with the 3 largest Minnesota gatherings totaling just 1,200 participants. She argued that many marches were issue agnostic, overlapping climate or labor demonstrations. Nationally, 55% of Americans approve Trump's trade and immigration agenda, while 75% favor efficient government operations. Leavitt reminded viewers again that unemployment remains at 3.8%. In a direct assault on MSNBC's credibility, Leavitt presented data showing the network had misreported on Trump at least 15 times in 2 years, resulting in 3 formal apologies. A Gallup survey finds 65% of Americans now distrust cable news, and MSNBC's audience has shrunk by 20% year over year. She accused Mattow's program of prioritizing partisan narratives over factual integrity. Mattow defended her work as grounded in public data and the press's duty to challenge power. She insisted that levying tough scrutiny on the administration was the hallmark of true journalism, not manipulation. Moments later, Levitt produced a USB drive containing an internal recording of Mattow speaking candidly about her editorial tactics. On tape, Mattow instructs her producers to push the Tesla collapse narrative, inflate profit drop figures, and coordinate with the DNC to smear Trump. She then brandished an email dated April 12th in which Mattow concretely directs an uptick in anti-Musk coverage. As the audio filled the studio, the live audience and at-home viewers reacted in stunned silence before erupting into chants of truth and Levitt wins. Mattow visibly shaken. Stammered denials that fell flat against her own recorded words. Social media ignited. Hashtag #MadAllies trended globally with over 2.5 million posts in the first hour. And hashtag #LeaveItTwins surged. Viewership The Mattow Show plunged by 25% immediately following the episode, prompting sponsors to withdraw ads. Insider reports confirm MSNBC's executive team convened an emergency meeting. International outlets from BBC to Al Jazeera hailed the episode as a watershed moment, with The Guardian dubbing it MSNBC's Watergate. Across America, ordinary citizens voiced their conviction that this confrontation underscored a dire need for media accountability. An Ohio mother declared on social media that she would now teach her children to demand transparency from journalists. A Texas college student said Levitt's performance restored her faith in civic engagement. In California, journalism programs announced workshops on ethics, citing Levitt's demonstration as a case study. Small business owners, empowered by Levitt's defense of their interests, expressed gratitude for her advocacy. In her final address, Caroline Levitt reiterated her mission: to defend truth, uphold President Trump's achievements, and hold media institutions accountable. Today, she declared, we proved that honesty will always prevail. As the studio lights dimmed, the thunderous applause signaled more than the end of a debate. It marked the genesis of a movement demanding integrity in public discourse. This landmark encounter between Levitt and Mattow will reverberate through newsrooms, classrooms, and living rooms nationwide, reshaping not only how Americans consume information, but how they demand accountability from those who deliver it. In the days that followed, the reverberations of this confrontation extended far beyond the studio walls. Newsrooms nationwide undertook rigorous audits of their editorial processes, wary that a single lapse could now trigger public outrage of unprecedented scale. Congressional committees signaled interest in holding hearings on journalistic standards, framing the Levitt-Mattow exchange as a catalyst for potential legislation to enhance transparency in media ownership and funding disclosures. Major social platforms, confronting the explosive spread of the debate's clips, announced revisions to their algorithmic promotion criteria aimed at elevating verified information and de-emphasizing sensationalized content. Within the White House, President Trump's advisors seized on Levitt's victory as a demonstration of their broader communication strategy's effectiveness, highlighting the alliance between the administration and sympathetic media figures. Meanwhile, internal conversations at MSNBC and its parent company scrutinize not only Mattow's role, but the structural incentives that might foster similar ethical breaches. Journalistic unions and professional societies convened emergency panels to draft reinforced codes of conduct, underscoring the profession's recognition that public trust is its most prized asset. Public reaction manifested in concrete civic actions. Petitions demanding a federal Truth in Reporting office amassed hundreds of thousands of signatures. And local civic groups organised town halls to debate media bias, inviting Levitt as well as former critics of her positions. University lecture halls brimmed with students dissecting the debate's transcript, analysing how rhetoric, data presentation, and audience psychology converged in real time. In editorial pages, op-eds wrestled with the question: can a polarised media landscape ever restore credibility? Or has Levitt's exposé merely deepened existing fault lines? Looking ahead, the recording's aftermath may define an inflection point in American journalism. If networks and digital platforms truly embed stricter verification protocols and innovate transparency, the Levitt-Matten showdown could be remembered as the moment that reset expectations for media accountability. Conversely, failure to institutionalize reform risks rendering this episode an isolated spectacle, a fleeting scandal rather than a foundation for lasting change. For viewers who tuned in that night and millions more who witnessed the fallout online, one lesson endures: in an era of information abundance, discernment is paramount. Caroline Levitt's unwavering insistence on empirical evidence did more than topple a celebrated anchor. It issued a clarion call to every American. Demand that every statistic, every claim, and every headline withstand the light of scrutiny. Only then can the public square reclaim its role as a forum for informed, constructive discourse, free from distortion. Manipulation and the erosion of trust.